Hello. Hello, everybody. Live. Adjust some volumes. Check this. Great. Hello, everybody. Hello. Good to see you on this Sunday. Our weekly meetup talking about Everybody Loves Raymond. And I'm going to try and answer some questions. This is Tom Caltabiano. I was a writer on Everybody Loves Raymond for all 9 years. I am loving all these people joining. Hello, Toronto. Hello, England. Hello, Gil. Is it Gil? Am I pronouncing it correctly, Gil? Hello, Paula. Good to see that you were able to join today. Great. Good to see all of you. Hello from North Wales, United Kingdom. Yes. So I guess good afternoon for those of you in Los Angeles. Good evening for those of you in the UK. And early morning in Australia. And I guess you're a little bit later than us in Texas. Hello, Texas. Love Texas. Great. Yes, it's Gil. Thank you, Gil. Some great questions, Gil, by the way. I really do appreciate them. And if I don't get back to them, if I don't answer them, that's why I try and go on every other week and just answer questions. Hello. It feels like the Everybody Loves Raymond family on Instagram. Good morning, Do you say Melbourne or Melbourne? Melbourne or Melbourne? All right. I don't know. You would have to write it phonetically for me to get it correct. All right. So what I wanted to talk to you, for those of you that haven't joined, again, I am Tom Caltabiano. I was a writer on Raymond. I met Ray doing stand-up before Everybody Loves Raymond, and I worked on the show as a writer from the beginning to the end, and I still see Ray probably 3 times a week. I still see Phil Rosenthal as often as I can, although it has Melbourne. Yes, correcting. Oh, yes. So the first one, I already forgot how I said it. Melbourne. Yeah, Melbourne sounds like someone from New Jersey. It also sounds like a game. Melbourne. Ah, perfect. Phonetic spelling. Thank you. Melbourne. There's a lot of, yes, we love Phil. Somebody feed Phil. The question, yes, was why was the Korean War used with Frank? Was he in the Korean War? Peter Boyle was not, but I believe Phil Rosenthal's father was. I mean, I know his father served in the Army, and I'm 99% sure it was Korea, because Ray's father served in World War II on a submarine. So that's why that came up. Hello, Hector. Hello. Hello. Yes, Melbourne. I feel like if I ended it now, I've learned how to say Melbourne, and I feel good about that. Hello, Randy. So there were a lot of questions. There were a lot. Yes. Oh, sorry. We love Phil. And Phil, for those of you that haven't seen Somebody Feed Phil, it is on Netflix. And you see Phil traveling around the world. And I know that whenever Phil is a guest, he brings his huge audience over here. So some of the Everybody Loves Raymond fans have said, oh, that's great, but I want to talk more about Everybody Loves Raymond. So hello. Is that Lausa? Lausa? Is that correct? Hello, Barbara. Did Peter Boyle use the term holy crap off camera too? All right, here's a little trivia. I don't know how much he did, but at the beginning, all right, I'll tell this little side story. At the beginning of Everybody Loves Raymond, Ray wanted to move out. Obviously, he had to move out. He didn't want to move his family. So I had helped him kind of punching up the pilot, or what we ultimately termed like Rayifying a script, where it just is more in Ray's language. And Ray had asked me to work on the show, so we figured out, okay, most shows get canceled after 6 episodes, or 3 episodes, or 9 episodes. So rather than Ray picking up and moving his whole family and then having to move them back 6 months later, or 6 months would have been a long run. And I will say that we have had a friend named Greg Giraldo. And Greg Giraldo starred in a show called Common Law. And we were all stand-ups. He moved out the exact same time. He was starring in the show, in his own show called Common Law. He moved out in August. We all moved out at the beginning of August. And in November, we were having a going away dinner at the Improv in L.A. for Greg. So his show aired, premiered, canceled. Already at the beginning of November, he moved back to New York. And that's the normal thing. So Ray and I lived in this apartment complex together, kind of a business complex. Peter Boyle lived right above us. Peter Boyle lived one floor above us. So we would go to dinner a lot, and we would hang out a lot with Peter because his family also was in New York. So I don't remember if Peter said, holy crap, a lot. I don't know. I don't remember, rather. If he did, it definitely wasn't, I'm trying to recount, hundreds and hundreds of conversations. So, and Peter, I think we've touched upon it. Peter was the most soft-spoken, sweetest guy, kind of the opposite of Frank. Here's a question, because what I'm going to talk a little bit about the sculpture in depth on this period. So, Tom, did any of the cast, excluding Ray, recommend any episodes? No, they didn't. And I think there was an open door. It's just that to develop a script, there's a very clear line. There's the performers and the writers. Now, that line changed later when you saw The Office, where you had writers appearing on camera. That just didn't, for the most part, happen. Maybe on Seinfeld, you'd see Larry David every once in a while in a Seinfeld episode, but it's a real clear line. So it's all of a sudden someone from the accounting department, going, I want to be in the whatever completely different accountant department every once in a while. So no, there were no suggestions. There were suggestions on the floor while we were rehearsing. They could come up. So the actors, and we touched upon it last week, of those of you who saw Aaron Shore, they could come up and suggest anything at any point. Also it became like a family. So it wasn't like someone would raise their hand and say, could you speak? Patty would go, hey, I wonder on this line, it just feels clunky for me. So that was a completely open door. But pitching an episode, it just didn't really happen per se. Okay, great. This is great. This is great. When I don't have a guest, I can just go answer questions, and then we'll get to the sculpture episode. So okay. So Reader Girl 74. Hello, Reader Girl 74. The car episode, Through the Living Room Idea, origin for the episode, that was a favorite of yours. So the episode came from Lou Schneider. And for those of you that watch every week, you know that a lot of the writers, including the writer of the sculpture episode, are not on Instagram. So I saw Lou recently at Phil Rosenthal's house, and I asked him about the car episode. And he said it was his neighbor. His neighbor he didn't drive through the house, but his neighbor kept backing into his car to the point where he would just come over and give him like there was no dispute or anything like that. So then Lou thought, for the wallpaper episode, which is the name of that episode, let's have this happen. Let's have this happen, and it's the time when Ray finally puts his foot down. So that's where that was inspired from. And of course, in the news, every once in a while you'd hear about that, where people are in their living room and all of a sudden their couch gets pushed across the room by a car. Yes. Hello, Abby May. Even though I've watched every episode at least 5 times, I only watched the sculpture the first time a few weeks ago. Have to track it down because they don't show it on Channel 4 in UK, which I believe is because it's on very early in the UK, and it might be deemed a little racy, even though, as you can tell, it's pretty clean. it's pretty clean considering what it is, what the subject is. And in truth, when we get into it, it was an abstract class. Peter Boyle's episode of X-Files is one of my favorites. Says Eric McGrath, 849. Now, Eric, did you have to add the 849 because Eric McGrath was taken, or does that have a special meaning to you? Peter Boyle was living in the complex above us when he got nominated for the episode of the X-Files. So we waved goodbye to him and said goodbye. He was going to the Emmys, and the show had just started. Raymond had just started. And Peter Boyle came back that night with an Emmy for the X-Files, which was great because Brad Garrett, won all of these Emmys, and Peter Boyle didn't. And we all felt bad, but Peter Boyle had won, for the X-Files, season 1 of Raymond, that was. For those of you that haven't seen it, it's a great episode. It's appropriately, he won an Emmy appropriately. One question, when an episode was online, the laughing was edit. Was the laughing added? 0 laughter added. The laughter was all organic. The laughter was all from the 200 people in the audience. Will there be a reunion? You saw the reunion. You saw a table read, or if you haven't, you should, because it's for a good cause. It's for multiple myeloma, which is what Peter Boyle died of, and so it's for that charity that Peter Boyle's wife, Lorraine, organizes. So will there be a reunion? I don't think in the formal way that a scripted reunion, just like Seinfeld has not done a reunion, and Friends. Friends actually had planned a reunion, but it was I think if Phil was going to do it, Phil Rosenthal, the creator, so Friends was going to be the cast telling stories, recounting clips, rather than a scripted episode, as we all know. Yes, you watch it. Thank you, Abby. You watch it every morning. That's why it's probably not on. Why was the finale not a big one? Okay, so Hooli, I don't know if that's your first name, and again, I love these names. So that was a deliberate call by Phil and Ray to make it as normal an episode as possible, because he didn't want it, and a lot of times shows ended with these disappointing finales, and so Phil wanted to be, this could fit in anywhere during the series. So, all right, let's see. Hello, yes, hello, all these great fans, great, good to see you all. Yes, Paula, the table read's fantastic. Yes, if you guys haven't watched it, go to the Multiple Myeloma site. It's on. If you scroll back in the Instagram, you'll see it. It's hysterical. It's absolutely worth watching. It's worth watching all of the actors laughing again and seeing them together. And at the very end, I do a Q&A with the cast, which is great. Hello, everybody. Here we go. Yes. There was a question. I'm scrolling back. These are such great questions. All right, so let's talk about the sculpture. So the sculpture was written by Jennifer Crittenden. And for those of you that haven't watched, the normal procedure in the Raymond Writers' Room, which was Phil ran the writer's room, was you would come in more often than not and tell a story about your life. And then that story, if it had legs, if it had enough meat to it, Phil would say, that's a story. And that would go on the board. So Jennifer Crittenden came in and said her mother was taking an abstract class, sculpting class, and gave her this gift. And the gift of the sculpture, she said, was not that abstract. And I think it was about this big, something like that. So Phil, and in the normal process, you come in with an idea, and Phil's like, okay, how do we make that a story? Because for those of you that are watching the episode, the finished episode, you see there has to be twists and turns, etc. And in the writing parlance, you have a teaser, you have a first act, and then you have a second act, and then you have a tag. So at the end of that first act, you have to have some big twist happen. So there's also something called an inciting incident. Okay, boring writing talk to some of you, interesting to others. So what is the story? So Jennifer came up with the story idea, and it goes through different iterations where you get like a 2-page breaking down of the story. Phil Rosenthal grew up, and if you look at the pictures I posted, I'll try and bring them up. Phil said, okay, if this is going to be funny, we have to make sure that that sculpture is not like this. It has to be gigantic. It has to be a 6-foot-tall sculpture, because if it was smaller, if it was as it was in real life, Ray could hide it on a bookshelf or something like that. And so Phil called up his parents. And for those of you that have watched Somebody Feed Phil, his parents are hysterical. And a lot of the Fruit of the Month Club is based on a real life thing that happened to Phil, where he gave them fruit of the month, and his parents overreacted, and it felt like it was a very bad thing that he had done. So Phil calls up his parents, and we'll have Phil tell this story next time he's on. But he calls up his parents, and he says, listen, you got to go take a picture of that sculpture down at the courthouse. And so, his mother's like, what sculpture? And his father's like, the sculpture, the vagina sculpture. And so, oh, okay. So if you look, and I'll bring it up now, at the Rockland County Courthouse, there is a gigantic abstract sculpture, and that sculpture used to be apparently on the steps when you walked up, and it was maybe 30 years or something, and it wasn't until somebody pointed out, almost like in the show, and I'm scrolling through, I will show you a picture. So it is on Instagram, but that is, if you go to Google Maps and if you look up the Rockland County Courthouse, you can look on Street View, and that is the sculpture that, and if you see, the base is identical to what is in the series. And here's a close-up view. There you go. So Phil had to tell the props department, listen, it has to be this gigantic sculpture. I'll send you some samples. I'll send you some pictures of that. And now this is before the time of the smartphone, so it was parents take a picture. There was no Google Maps. There was no parents take a picture, send it. Props department goes, okay, let's make it. So then they do test samples, and then finally they end up with what you see on the episode. So the episode is hysterical, as hopefully those of you that can't see it in England can find it somewhere. And I think I've seen somewhere in the past, people have said it's on Comedy Central there, and you can see it. But it's totally a hysterical episode. And here's a point of trivia. The woman who plays the nun, the woman who plays one of the nuns, her father was a famous jazz piano player named Paul Smith, who played with Ella Fitzgerald and a bunch of other jazz artists. And he just died recently. He was 91, I think. And so if you look that up, you will see. And that actress, Laurie Johnson, you might see her on Mom. If any of you see Mom, she does guest spots on Mom, etc. So yes, Comedy Central, great. So now the sculpture, just for that added twist, by the way, of what's the most embarrassing group of people that could come to take that sculpture, it is a group of nuns, which is great for the heightening the story. All right, so now, who has the sculpture? So the show happened in season 6, and apparently Doris took it home and it was at her house. Now, every year for Christmas, we would go to Doris's house, and there was something called a greed party. And I'll post pictures. If you guys want to see pictures of the inside of Doris Roberts' house during this Christmas party, I'll post those photos. And it was a great time, and it was the cast and you know, a lot of the crew. I mean, you can't have 100, and you can't, if you had the crew and their wives and spouses or whatever, you would have 300 people in a place. So we would be in Doris's living room, and I believe her house, which was in the Hollywood Hills, I believe James Dean lived in her house at one point. And she had a great little bar and a great living room area where we all gathered. I'll have to remember to put those up. And in the bar, by the way, when you went to Doris's bar in her house, it was filled with Emmys. I mean, she, you know, and all of her and pictures of her with James Coe. It's a really, really quaint feeling bar that she had. And it was great just to be there drinking with the cast. So having said that, having been at Doris's house every Christmas, I never saw the sculpture. And I didn't know, because it's 6 foot. It's a 6 foot tall sculpture. It's not an easy thing to hide. As we saw Ray having the problems in real life, and I mean in the episode, and then in real life, it's also the same type of problem. So I never saw it. I just heard that she had it at her house. So, and by the way, give me some hearts if you want to see the inside of Doris's house for that Christmas party, because that's okay. I will try and I'll remember to post them before Christmas. So I've put up a few more pictures of the sculpture on Instagram. When the show was ending, for the finale of the show, we all walked on stage to rehearse, and suddenly there was the sculpture in the middle of the stage just sitting there. And I think it's worth noting now, when you see an episode, it's very present, right? You watch the episode last night, last week, whatever. At that point, the episode had been shot 3 years earlier. And so at that time, it's 3 years earlier. It's 2005. And so all of a sudden, it was like an old friend to see this sculpture sitting in the middle of the floor, because we really didn't think about it. It was just gone. So here's what it was. Every prop, if it's really significant or insignificant, they make 2. They have to make 2. Sometimes they make 3. So there are 2 sculptures. And where is that second sculpture? I don't know. But the sculpture, and I posted a couple pictures here. So here you see this is Jonathan Buss. Jonathan Buss directed The Last Laugh, which is if you haven't seen it, I think you can find it on YouTube. It's a great documentary about the last episode of Ever Brothers Raymond. And this is Wendy Goldstein, now Wendy Trilling, who she is very responsible. And posing, by the way. I have tons of pictures of people posing with the sculpture because we were so excited that we actually saw it again. So Wendy was very responsible for taking the script and championing the script and putting it in front of the president of CBS and pushing it forward. Because as we've talked about in the past, and I'll get into the development process, when you're trying to develop a show, there's maybe 100 scripts that the executives are reading. And they're going, okay, do we shoot this? No. Do we shoot this? No. And some of them don't even consider. They don't even get read really by a higher level person. So she really helped push it forward. So at that point, it was the discovery of the second one. Now, my guess on who has the second sculpture is Donna Stamps, who is I want to say she's the set decorator. And I just don't know because I don't know her exact title. I mean, I know her very well, and she was on the show. I saw her every week, and so I just don't remember the official title. But there's a very good chance that she has it. And if she's on Instagram, I'll try and get her to track it down because I would love to. I would love to find out where that is and take some more photos. But just with it, I think, maybe I should figure out how do you make a miniature of that to sell, because I would love to have one, maybe this big, to put on my desk. And I think just talking about the props, the fact that the reason you make two of everything is if something ever goes wrong with one of the props, you can't hold up a production of 200 people in the audience, 130 people behind the scenes. You have the ticking clock of you have to get the audience out, and all of a sudden that sculpture gets a chip in it. You can't stop and go, oh, you know what? In a week we'll get a second one. So very often there's multiples, and very often they're never used. And it's the same with people's clothes, the cast clothes, always doubles of everything that there was. And in this one photo, I wanted to show this one as well. So there is a black and white photo, and you can kind of see it. That's Dan DuPont. Let me see if we can get it to focus. That's Dan DuPont, who was a set. He worked on the set, and he would move stuff in and out of the set, set dressing. And that's a panoramic photo. That's during the finale. Now, the next photo is the interesting part. That is Patty Heaton. That is a lamp. And at the very end of Everybody Loves Raymond, there were a lot of parts of the props that were given away to the cast or whoever wanted it. And I don't know that the cast had first dibs, but there was a lot of stuff that all of a sudden they're getting rid of it. And so Patty is actually looking at that lamp that's being held up by Steve, and to his back is a guy named Mike. They're all doing set dressing or whatever. So you can see that's Patty. That's Patty in the continuation of that photo. So if you look at it on your own rather than my shaky hand, you can see. So that is what's happening in that last thing. And I'll have to ask Patty when she comes on if she took that lamp. All right. A lot of questions came in, so let me scroll through. Hello, Teresa. You'll buy that and Marie's canister as well. Yes, I've thought about that. I think there were 2 canisters, and I'm looking forward to talking to Donna to see where that canister is. Now, I know Phil has Frank and Marie's kitchen set. And he might have Frank and Marie's couch. I forget what Ray has. Yes, Paula, Christmas cards. Yes, a great line. Frank, I don't know what it is, but I like it. Where is the canister now? Yeah, my guess is at, and actually, I'll have to dig up these photos as well. For those of you that are huge fans, there was a mysterious locker that got discovered about 2 years or 3 years after the show ended. And it was a giant storage area of Raymond props. And so at one point, Phil Rosenthal had a development deal. He had an office on Warner Brothers, and his assistant, Aaron Champion, who hopefully we can talk to, she calls me up and says, listen, can you come down because we have so much stuff? And so I know if you're watching the show, what you wouldn't give to have a prop from your favorite show. And so we'll talk to Aaron about that, the mysterious locker that was discovered. All right, let me scroll back up to some of these questions. Let's see. Jojo, sometimes in the audience laughter, you would hear a deep, loud, distinctive laugh. Was that Robert? Now, I don't know, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch an episode and give you the exact time in the episode where I hear a laugh that I know. So Phil has a very distinctive loud laugh. Mark Sweet, who does the audience warm-up, who we spoke to, he has a distinctive laugh. Why was ginger ale in almost every episode? Phil's favorite, never. That was Ray. Ray didn't drink coffee. Ray really liked ginger ale. And so that's why that was in almost every episode, early on, too. And then I think Canada Dry started sending ginger ale that, I mean, Ray was going to drink it anyway. So, table, yes, okay. Beautiful. I love these questions. I can't wait to, the morning on Channel 5. I'm so glad it took off in the United Kingdom. And they tried to do a kind of reboot, not reboot, with British actors. Phil went over there. And I don't know whether it even aired, or if any of you know, let me know. But obviously the British pride themselves on their sense of humor. And I'm glad that it's become popular in the United Kingdom. I don't know if people watch it in Germany. I don't know if they watch it in Poland. I don't know I don't know if there's anyone ever watching from Poland. I know Germany, every once in a while we get that. Patricia Heaton has the same last name as me, and you feel blessed. So, as you and you feel blessed, not me. Okay. Not that I don't feel that you should feel blessed. Okay. The toaster episode where Ray gifted his parents an engraved toaster. Was that based on a real incident? Hello, Sarah from Queens. Where are you in Queens, Sarah? You're in, because Ray is from Middle Village, Queens, and Phil was actually born in Queens. So, yes, that was based on a real life story that happened to Phil. And the next time Phil's on, I'll have him tell it at length. But basically, Phil gifted his parents an engraved toaster. And that's where that came from. Elmhurst great. Elmhurst, Queens. Great. Hello, Pebbles. Has Les Moonves sent in any episodes? I don't know what that means exactly. Has Les Moonves sent in any episodes? Where are the lamps? Yes. Wasn't Catherine Tate supposed to be in the UK reboot? She might have been. And I think a comedian who I met was in it as well. Lee. Is his name Lee? He's a comedian. And I met him. I was doing a pilot with Phil, a food pilot in London. And he joined us for one portion of the episode. Yes, the episode you love is the one with Robert and Ray down in the basement going through more old childhood memories. Yes, that's a great one as well. And did you film the Italy episodes the summer before the season started? Hello, is that Dort? Kathy? What interesting. Yes, thank you. Wonderful behind-the-scenes photos. So the Italy episode, the Italy portions of the Italy episode were shot, I believe, in July. So the way a season works, especially on network TV, is the writers come in June. It's almost like, if you know baseball, it's pitchers and catchers report early. So the writers come in June, they write episodes, and then the show starts August. The show starts filming in August because in the United States, the fall season is the premiere of the new shows, and that usually happened around September, mid-September. So you wanted to have at least 4 to 6 episodes in the can, as they say, so that you're never short an episode. Because as Phil would say, once the train leaves the station, the train is leaving the station Monday at 9 p.m. You must have that episode in Monday at 9 p.m. on CBS here. So the Italy episode was filmed in July. The writers were writing on the other episode. They shot some of the Italy episode, the exteriors and all that stuff, in Italy. And then the first season, the first episode that we shot on Warner Brothers stage was the remainder of the episode, all the stuff that we needed inside the stage. By the way, next week, let's see. Yeah, Lee Evans. Thank you, Joanne. Lee Evans, right? Is Lee Evans a funny stand-up from Britain? Yes. Yes. Did Les Moonves send any storylines for episodes? No. Les Moonves was the president of CBS. He did not. And I don't think anybody, there's a formal, what do I want to say? There's a formal path to submit episodes. So I will tell you this story. I went back to a high school reunion, and when I walked into my high school reunion, a girl that I'd known forever, she hands me a script. She goes, "My friend wants to submit this script, Tom, for your show." And so I said, "Oh, okay, I can't take it. Like, it has to go through an agent to get it to me." And so if you are sitting with your friends and you're like, "You know what might be funny? Maybe this." There's never that small idea, that type of thing that becomes an episode because, for the most part, on Raymond, that is. But because there's so many iterations, there's also, you have these writers, and it's their job to come up with these episodes. And you can't just have random submissions of episodes for legal reasons, etc. So that's kind of that's why when you ask even about the actors, if an actor came up and said, "What about this, then it would be kind of like a formal pitch. So was it coincidence that every season ended in flashback? No, that was by design. Had the writers ever thought of asking fans to submit story ideas for episodes? No, I don't believe so. The new can opener, Deborah preferred over Ray's can opener. Randy, you are bringing that up. Yes, Lee Evans. I remember him being a very funny and very nice guy. Randy, the new can opener. Okay, so that happened in real life with Phil and Monica, and I think I'll have Monica on to talk about it. But that's the tuna episode, and it's a great episode, so we'll wait to address that one. But yeah, that is a really, really good episode. Are there any... yes, best line for the... I did not... Yes, I'm... Great, Teresa, yes. Best line from the Toaster episode. "I'm not some trophy wife." And then Frank says, "What contest in hell did I win?" Great. What cast member cracked up the most during filming? Believe it or not, this might come as a surprise, but Brad Garrett. Ray would get Brad Garrett to laugh and lose it more than anybody. Doris was such a professional. Like, she was laser beam focused professional and in the moment. They all would laugh, but the one that would laugh the most would be Brad Garrett, because it's surprising because Brad's a stand-up, and usually stand-ups don't laugh. They just go, "Yeah, okay, that's funny. That's funny." But Brad would lose it. And if you ever go to YouTube and look up the bloopers, you'll see Brad losing it to Ray many, many times. So let's see. Tom through week looked like, yeah. Yes, Brad could never keep a straight face. True. And he would get mad at himself when he would miss lines, which was not very often. These are great. Yeah, take us through. Okay, great. A production week. Take you through a production week. Yeah, that might take. Do we have enough time? I can go into that. Do you want to hear what a whole production week is? I can try and summarize that. Yes. Okay. Was the gift episode any more difficult to film due to having a live... Hello, Wendell Poons. The gift episode, for those of you that don't remember, and it's funny because I know the episodes by their name, but when it first aired on network TV, it never said the name of the episode. But now I think with streaming, and a lot of people have questions about streaming. It streams on Peacock Network. You can find it on Amazon. So now you do see the title. So The Gift had a giant live fish tank, and there's a great shot of Robert in that, looking through that fish tank. So it wasn't really more challenging because it's very strict rules. So they had what do you call the fish tank expert? So they had a fish tank expert on set. The fish tank was situated. I'll have to see if I can find pictures of it. The fish tank was situated on the edge of Frank and Marie's living room, and it was just there throughout the scene. So, yes, fans, yes, yes, Jeff. The funniest was when Robert dated the Frog Lady. Yes, which was based on real life. The Frog Lady is called She's the One. And that was based on Ray Romano's real brother going back to a woman's apartment, and she had snakes. Her bathroom and bedroom were filled with snakes. Sarah. Hello, Sarah. I wish there was more episode collaborations between ELR and King of Queens. Yeah, I mean, Kevin James is one of the funniest people on the planet. He's just funny. And Ray and I have known him since stand-up days, etc., 90s, in the early 90s. The reason there aren't more crossovers is you have to figure out your schedules each show, and it's a very tight schedule. So when you have a crossover, you're only airing the crossover as a King of Queens or an Everett Raymond. But Ray, or whoever's doing the crossover, has to take time to go to shoot that show on show night during production week. So it's really kind of complicated to do it. I mean, it just complicates it a little bit much, and there's other stuff, you know. Can Kevin James? Yeah, I can see if Kevin will come on. Yeah. You know, I think I'm going to see if Kevin has a friend of his who's a writer named Rock Rubin. I will see if he can join first, and then I'll see if Kevin wants to jump on, because Ray and I wrote an episode called Golf. Ray, Kevin James, and I wrote an episode called Golf, and I think I have a picture where we were all sitting in our office together, and I should go back even more. When Ray and I shared an apartment, we had a 2-bedroom apartment, and Kevin was not on TV yet regularly. He wasn't in King of Queens yet. And so he was coming out to L.A., so he lived with us for about 3 weeks. And he would pull the mattress off of a fold-out couch. And the fold-out couch, for those of you that haven't experienced a fold-out couch, at least a typical American fold-out couch, there used to be a bar. You would fold it down, and it was a wafer-thin mattress like this, and there was a bar in the middle of your back. And so Kevin would take the mattress off and just sleep on the floor of this, apartment complex in the living room. And so at one point, Ray and Kevin were watching TV, and I went into my room to talk to somebody on the phone. When I came out, they were both sound asleep on the floor, Ray with the remote, and Kevin with with a blanket over him on this mattress. And I took a photo of it. And then Ray, I think I mentioned this story before, Ray took that photo on Letterman and said, "This is 1 hour of primetime television." It's a very funny photo. So yeah, we'll see if we can have Kevin. I hope that answers your question. Yes, Kevin James is your all-time favorite guy. I'd love to see him here. Yes, he's fantastic. He is. There aren't. He's just hysterical. And actually, Wendy, who you saw in that, Wendy, who was the executive, the VP of development, when Raymond was on the air, I said to her, the two people when I was doing consistent touring, doing stand-up, the two people who got the biggest reactions from the audience, standing ovations all the time, were, and I'm just curious if you guys know, if you would guess, but it was Kevin James and Jeff Dunham. Jeff Dunham would get a standing ovation every time I worked with him. And she said, yeah, we're trying to do something with Kevin, and we've had meetings with Jeff Dunham. So, yes, Ray would be great in some of the UK comedies. Yes, he would. Yes. Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't think Ray has ever been to England. I think Ray's only been to Italy. He's never been to, and for those of you that love the Italy episode, that was kind of Phil's goal, is to introduce Ray Romano, the real human being, to Italy. So, yes. Yes, Paula. The Puppet Guy. Yes, Jeff Dunham. Kevin was in Grown Ups. Yes, such a funny movie. Yes, Karen. Excellent. Let me go back. Yes, Kevin's brother, Gary Valentine, was funny in the show, too. Yes, Gary Valentine. Yes, their name is, their last name is Niffing. And Kevin changed his name to James and Gary to Valentine. The ping pong episode. Very good question. Leo in Toronto. Is that correct? Leo, give me some hearts there. So the ping pong episode was written by Aaron Shore, who we saw last week. And it was the first episode that Aaron had written. Now, that will be very interesting to find out if that was based on a real thing that happened to Aaron. Yes, Leo, great. That's a great question from Jay. Now, is it Jay Sawyer or is it JS? It's got to be Jay. I don't know. Did the Steve Miller Band like the show, especially after using their song in the opening? Now, the comedic answer would be they must have loved it because they got paid a lot of royalties for having that in the show. So my guess is the Steve Miller Band did enjoy, and Jungle Love is the song, for those of you that don't know the rock and roll trivia. Jay Sauer. So is your first name Jay? Is your first name John? Is your first name Joe? I love it. I wish we could all be talking back and forth. But great. That's a great phonetic, but I'm sure you've had to have had to do that in the past. So yeah, but I don't know if Steve Miller Band and Steve Miller likes the show. That's a great question. I know the lead singer. This is really bizarre trivia. Thank you, Jonathan. Good to hear from you. Great question. The lead singer from Styx loves Everybody Loves Raymond. Somebody told me that, and then I looked it up, and he posted a tweet about it. And Frank paints the house. Frank paints part of the window, trimmed by mistake. In the next scene to him, it's back to the original color. John, that's a continuity problem that you caught. That's good. I will have to look at that. That's a really, that's someone who studied the background. And we used to always say in the writer's room, if people are paying attention to things in the background, we are making a very boring show. The giant fork and spoon, yes. I'm going to have to figure out how do I get fans these items. The giant fork and spoon. I'm going to think about that. I have some things in the works. Lots of famous athletes joined in early sessions. Were they paid? Yes. I'm sure they were paid scale. So I think I've told this in the past, but the reason that the famous athletes were in at the beginning of the series is the series was not known. And so it's something called stunt casting, which is you put in a big name and you try and get your ratings up, because Raymond was number 83 in the ratings at the end of the first year. And these famous athletes were, that was a Les Moonves, like, let's do stunt casting just to try and get eyeballs, because we were on it Friday night at 8:30, I think, or I forget if it was 8 or 8:30. And so those actors were paid, and I'm sure it was negotiated. They probably didn't get paid a lot of money, but they definitely got paid. because it was Tommy Lasorda. There was an Olympic skater, Christy Yamaguchi, I believe, Barry Bonds, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a few others that were on there. And I don't know, do you guys see those episodes? Because the first thing that Phil did in syndication is he cuts those out. So let me talk about, because I'm seeing a lot of questions in passing about frustration about it streaming. Like, why isn't it on Netflix? And really quickly, a company like Netflix pays a license to take content for X number of years. And once that license is up, then there's a resale of it. And so if, you know, in the case of Disney, for example, Disney is taking all of their content. So eventually you'll never see any Disney movie or anything of theirs on another streaming platform other than Disney, because they just want it all to be there. So Ever's Raymond was on Netflix, and the licensing was ending, and so the Peacock network bought it. They either paid more than Netflix, offered much more than Netflix, or Netflix didn't even, you know, I don't know. So that's what happened. It's strictly an economics thing. So Peacock is the one that has it now. And so, yes, you love Doris and the Miracle in the Mrs. Miracle movies. A bit random. Yes, it is random, and it is a good thing to bring up. I've never seen her not be great in anything. Yeah, I think Seinfeld might be coming to Netflix. No, Leo, you're saying did I say that Phil decides which shows are on reruns? No, Phil would cut out the extra portion of the teaser with the professional athletes. That's what he decided, to cut that out. How much rehearsal time did Brad and Monica do for their wedding dance? It was awesome. Yes, John, it was awesome. They had 4 days to rehearse, but Monica was a dancer, and Brad's a phenomenal dancer, and Monica's friend is a dance choreographer. And so hello, Malcolm. Malcolm saying the jazz episode is the best, which is one that I wrote, Jazz Records. So yeah, they had everybody has 5 days for every episode. But like I said, Monica was a dancer and Brad should have been a dancer. Yes. When will Patty be on this live? I asked her and she was moving. I texted her and she said, you know what, I'm moving. And so I will ping her again and we will have her on. I love Patty and I love talking to Patty, and I'm looking forward to have her on. Oh, so that reminds me, next week, Madeline Sweeten, who played Ali Romano, will be on. So don't miss next week. Madeline Sweeten will be here. I'm hoping that. Yes, Wallpaper. Hello, Bella. Is that your first name, Bella? Is your first name beautiful? What was sprayed on Doris in the episode Frank Paints the House? I have that answer, but I don't have it in front of me. It's a type of, it's not paint. It's, I will tell it to you. I will post it. I'll post a picture and put it on, post a picture of the Frank Paints the House episode and give you that answer. But that question comes up a lot. And I was looking through my photos and I don't, I have to find the moment when she gets sprayed. It was hysterical. That was a one-take thing, I believe. Yes, because you can only do it up to, they did it a couple takes right up to the point where she got sprayed, and then they did it when she was sprayed. Yes, Patty, you can tell Monica is a great dancer. The wallpaper that Ray said didn't match the original wallpaper in the living room. Yes. Did Phil have a goal for show rankings each year? The goal the first year is stay on the air, because the first year they only, Seinfeld had 5 episodes its first season, and then was kind of put on hold. Everett Raymond took a long time to catch on. Seinfeld took a long time to catch on. Friends was an instant hit. Roseanne was an instant hit. Grace Under Fire. Some shows take off right away. Seinfeld took 3 years to start bringing momentum, and then they finished number one. So I think it's just stay on the air. It's such a pressure cooker. You would so in those days, a show would air, and you would get something called the overnights, and Phil would call up, hear the overnights, and then we'd be like, okay. So you were sweating it every week of whether you were still going to be on the air the next week, especially the first season. The second season, it was less pressure, but still a ton of pressure because also in the United States, they put Monday Night Football up against Everybody Loves Raymond. And it's a very, so yes, do you want to be the number one show? And actually, towards the end of Raymond, it seemed like we would be number one. And then the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, for those of you, obviously most of you are familiar with it, that came on the air out of the blue, and it was the number 1, 2, and 3 rated show every week. And so it was a non-scripted game show, and there hadn't been a number one game show probably in 40 years or something. Yes. Hello, Jasper. We watch every morning. Yes. Before work and school. Great. Great. And it is a clean show. All right. Goodbye, Paula. We look forward to next week. Yes, Brad on here again. Yes, Joanne, I will try and get them. I would have them on every week. Were any storylines or ideas he borrowed from other sitcoms? Not knowingly. Yeah, we tried to avoid even jokes. If we knew a stand-up comedian had jokes that were similar to something we were talking about, we would avoid that. They ate a lot on the show. Did they eat even during, hello, beautiful B. Marie. Did they eat on the show? Did they eat even during rehearsal, you mean, practice? Yes. Yes, they ate. There was eating all the time. If a show, yes, because they had craft services, so you could walk through Ray and Deborah's living room, and right there was a table with a bunch of snacks. So everybody was eating all the time. How exhausted is it? Kolsch Soul. What is that meaning of that name? How exhausted was Raymond because he was both producing some episodes and in him. Yes. He was very tired. He worked extremely hard. He was in every episode, and he prayed to get scenes that he wasn't in. And he was in the writer's room every single day and writing scripts. So he had a lot on his plate. Can there be an ELR fest, like there was a Friends Fest, where fans can see props and sets and watch highlights of episodes with other fans? Oh, Abby, that's a good idea. I will have to explore that. Was the finale a difficult episode to film? John. Is it John Intino? Did I get it right? I always like to get people's names right. John, yes, and I will talk about that at length. But yes, it was very, very difficult episode because it was very emotional because after 9 years, you're saying goodbye to A, this second family, and B, your paycheck. I watch every night. I put the kids together. Yes. Bella, where are you? Where are you that you watch? Are you in the United States? Another table read for, yes, maybe another table read. Jasper, I'm accentuating the Z. Did anyone ever drink? No. That was a pretty dry set. The only drinking that happened was after we filmed. Some of us would go back to Phil's office. Well, sorry. At the beginning of the season, after we filmed, we would go to a bar at the beginning of the series. Then Phil had us join a Scotch malt whiskey society, and we would drink in Phil's office. I'll post some pictures. So I have to remember Doris Roberts' house and that. All right. I have to wrap this up. Don't forget Maddie next week. If a show is canceled early on, can you take it to another network? Yes. But will a network want a early on canceled show? Chances are no. That's a tough sale. It's a different, the more likely thing is you're on for 7 seasons and they're canceling you the 8th, and then you go on to another thing. David Praval, yes, I would love to have him on. My guess is he is not on Instagram. Yes, usually grapefruit. Chris Elliott, I don't know, Malcolm, if Chris Elliott, who played Peter on Everest Raymond, is on Instagram. I've looked for him on Instagram. I don't see him. I do have his email. I could email him. Oh, yes. Hello, Bella. Dumbayeva. Something like that. Hello in Massachusetts. Yes, from Chechnya, Russia. What time is it in Chechnya now? All right. I'm sorry that I have to wrap it up. My favorite episode, so many. I do like She's the One. I did help write that with Ray and Mike Royce. Yes, Chris Elliott. By the way, Chris Elliott is so funny and such a nice guy, and just I would love to talk to Chris. He was just a great guy. All right, I will see you next week. See you at 2 p.m. Los Angeles time with Maddie Sweeten, who plays Allie, and I'll remember to post those. And if I don't answer your questions, when you write them, I'll try and answer them live. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.